Joke. Number 1. This is the story of a young boy who lived with his mom and dad. One day, mom and the dad get into an argument and file for a divorce. Mom gets to keep the kid while dad takes his stuff and leave. Before going to bed, the boy sees a shooting star in the sky and wishes for his mom and dad to be back together again. The next morning, the boy goes downstairs to see his mother and father, who are back together and are happy with each other. The boy, however, isn't happy but confused. He takes one good look at his father, goes to mom, and whispers to her, "Who's this guy?" Joke number 2. A father, mother, and child went out to spend time on the beach on a hot summer's day, but as soon as they reached the beach, they discovered that there was a black flag there, a sign not to enter the water. The boy really wanted to get in the water, but his mother did not agree, and they stayed on the beach to rest in the sun and play in the sand. After a few minutes, the father got bored and turned to his wife. "Keep an eye on the boy. I'm going into the water. There's no way the sea is really that dangerous." After a few minutes, the boy asked, "Mom, why did you let Dad get in the water and not me?" "Because you and your father are two different people, and there are things he can do, and you can't," answered the mother. "Is it because Dad knows how to swim really well?" continued the boy. "Not really," answered the mother. "Is it because Dad is big and strong?" "No." "Then why is Daddy allowed to enter the water and I'm not?" the boy complained. "Because Daddy has life insurance." Joke. Number 3. A father is lecturing his son about the importance of a good education. "Dad, what's the difference between a man with a college degree and a man without?" said the son. "Well, son," said the father, "you can perform the same job, but the outcome will vary depending on whether you have a college degree or not." "How so?" asked the son. "You see, if you rob a man without a college degree, you will be prosecuted as a criminal and sent to jail." "What if I rob a man after I receive a college degree?" I asked the son. "In that case, they will address you as a special agent of the IRS. Joke number 4. It was a regular day in first grade, and the teacher asked all the students to tell her something about what their parents do for a living. Some kids knew and gave a good description, while others didn't really understand their parents' jobs and gave vague descriptions or none at all. When they got to little Johnny, he stood up and said, "My dad cuts people in half." "Oh, really?" asked the teacher with a smile. "You mean he's a magician?" "I don't know," said Johnny. "A surgeon, maybe?" asked the teacher. "I don't know," repeated Johnny. "Then why do you think he cuts people in half?" asked the confused teacher. "Because I have 2 half-brothers and 3 half-sisters." Joke number 5. Sarah's parents are excited to meet her new boyfriend. This is the first time the 28-year-old has brought a man to meet her parents. Her mother slaved over a hot stove all day while her father cleaned the house and cut the grass. They both wore their best clothes and waited for Sarah. At 8, they hear that ring. They open the door and Sarah is there, standing next to a huge man full of tattoos and a face that looks like it has been in every possible fight, with scars aplenty crossing his face. He looks like he beats people for a living. After some hesitant pleasantries, the shocked parents take Sarah to the kitchen. "What the heck, Sarah?" asked her mother. "Why would you date a guy like that? He looks like a thug." "You've got him all wrong," said Sarah, irritated. "He's an incredibly nice and charitable guy." "What makes you say that?" asked her father. "Well, just this month, he spent 200 hours serving his community." Joke. Number 6. A couple invites their family over for Thanksgiving night and invites the whole family to spend the holiday and meal together. The family gathers, but the couple's children are late and the mother-in-law complains aloud, "Ugh, your children!" always late. Eventually, everyone comes and sits down to eat. The mother-in-law insists on sitting at the head of the table, and no one has the strength to argue with her. After a few minutes, the hungry mother-in-law begins to complain. "Ugh, what's with the food here? Why is it always late?" A few minutes later, the couple bring out the meal they have prepared for their family, mostly cooked by the wife. Everyone eats, and the evening continues. While they are in the middle of their main course, the mother-in-law says, "Ugh, I better start clearing the dishes so we can at least move on to the last dish on time." A mere second after she gets up, the large wall clock hanging over the head of the table falls down, reducing her chair to pieces and almost hitting her. Everyone is in shock until the bride mumbles to herself, "Ugh, this clock. Always late." Joke number 7. A couple of old ladies were sitting on a patio and speaking to each other about their grandchildren. "I send gifts, greeting cards, and checks to my grandchildren," complains one, "and still they barely visit me." The second old lady said, "Oh, I too send checks to my grandchildren, and they visit me all the time." "You are so fortunate to have more grateful grandchildren than my own," said the first one sadly. The second old lady smiled. "No, my grandchildren are about as grateful as yours." "So, what do you do differently? Are your checks bigger than mine?" asked the first one, surprised. "No," chuckled the other old lady, "I just don't sign mine." Joke number 8. A boy goes to his father and asks him, "Daddy, how was I born?" "Ah, very well." His dad sighed. "One day you'll find out anyway. How shall I put it in a way your generation will understand?" "Well," he said, "Mom and Dad got together in a chat room. Dad set up a date via email with your mom, and we met at a cyber cafe. We snuck into a secluded room, and then your mother downloaded from your dad's memory stick. As soon as Dad was ready for an upload, it was discovered that neither one of us had used a firewall. Since it was too late to hit the delete button, 9 months later the blessed virus appeared. And that's the story." Joke number 9. A young Italian girl was going on her first date. Before the date, her nonna decided to give her some advice. Nonna said, "Sita here, Anna Latami, tell you about those a younga boys. He's a-gonna try and kiss you. You are a-gonna like-a that. But don't let him do that. He's a-gonna try on kiss your breasts. You are a-gonna like-a that too. But don't let him do that. But most important, he's a-gonna try on lay on top of you. You are a-gonna like-a dat. But don't let him do that. Doing that will a disgrace of the family." With that bit of advice, the granddaughter went on her date. The next day, she told Grandma that her date went just like she had predicted. "Nonna, I didn't let him disgrace the family. When he tried, I just turned over, got on top of him, and disgraced his family." Joke number 10. Orenz's law of mechanical repair. Once your hands become coated with grease or paint, your nose will begin to itch. Anthony's law of the workshop. Any tool, when dropped, will roll to the least accessible corner. Kovacs's conundrum. When you dial a wrong number, you never get an engaged tone. Cannon's karmic law. If you tell your boss you were late for work because you had a flat tire, the next morning you will have a flat tire. O'Brien's variation. Law. If you change cues, the one you have left will start to move faster than the one you are in now. Same goes for car lanes. Bell's theorem. The moment your body is immersed in water, the phone rings. Ruby's principle of close encounters. The probability of meeting someone you know increases when you are with someone you don't want to be seen with. Willoughby's law. When you try to prove to someone that a machine won't work, it will. Zadra's law of biomechanics. The severity of the itch is inversely proportional to the reach. Breda's rule. At any event, the people whose seats are farthest from the aisle arrive last. Owen's law. As soon as you sit down for a hot cup of coffee, Someone will want to talk to you until the precise moment your coffee is cold. Joke number 12. A couple just had their first son. The husband is half Irish and half Indian. The wife is half Chinese and half Italian. That's a lot of heritage to inherit. They talk about it, and they discover they both wish to have their son named after their heritage. A terrible argument ensues, causing both of them a lot of anguish. After a few days, they finally came to a decision that made both of them happy. They decided on the name, Ravioli. Joke number 13. An 8-year-old girl went to her dad, who was working in the yard. She asked him, "Daddy, what is X?" The dad was surprised that she would ask such a question, but decides that if she is old enough to ask the question, then she is old enough to get a straight answer. He proceeded to tell her all about the birds and the bees. When he finished explaining, the little girl was looking at him with her mouth hanging open. "Why did you ask this question?" her father asked her. The little girl replied, "Well, Mom told me to tell you that dinner would be ready in just a couple of secs." Joke number 14. A 15-year-old Amish boy and his father visited the city for the very first time. They wandered around, marveling at the different sights. Eventually, they got to a mall. They were amazed by almost everything they saw. But they were especially amazed at 2 shiny silver walls that could move apart and then slide back together again. The boy asked, "What is this, Father?" The father, never having seen an elevator, responded, "Son, I've never seen anything like this in my life. I don't know what it is." While the boy and his father were watching with amazement, a fat old lady in a wheelchair rolled up to the moving walls and pressed a button. The walls opened, and the lady passed between them into a small room. The walls closed, and the boy and his father watched the small numbers above the walls light up sequentially. They continued to watch until it reached the last number, and then the numbers began to light in the reverse order. Finally, the walls opened up again, and a gorgeous 24-year-old blonde woman stepped out. The father, not taking his eyes off the young woman, said quietly to his son, "Junior, go get your mother." Joke number 15. One November afternoon, when my daughter was in kindergarten, I picked her up after school. She bobbed out of the car and crawled into the back seat. "What did you do today?" I asked. She couldn't wait to tell me. "We learned that boys are different from girls," she chirped. Looking into the rearview mirror, I could just see the top of her head. "My teacher told us that boys have a thing and girls don't," she added. "Well, yes, they do." I said it cautiously. I couldn't think of anything else to say, so we were quiet for a moment. Then she piped up again. "That's how girls know that boys are boys," she said. "They see that thing that hangs down and they know that he is a boy." I mentally calculated the distance home. Our 5-minute commute already felt like an hour. "Did you know that when the boys see a girl, they puff up?" she asked. My palms were beginning to sweat. Well, I was still searching for something new to say, to change the subject, when she asked, "Why do the girls like the boys to have those things?" Well, I didn't know what to say. I mean, what woman hasn't asked herself that question at least once? "Oh, well, I stammered. She didn't wait for my answer. She had her own. "It's 'cause it moves when they walk, and then the girls see that, and that's when they know they are boys, and that's when they like them. Then the boy sees the girl, and he puffs up, and then the girl knows he likes her too, and then they get married, and then they get cooked." That last part confused me a bit, but on the whole, I thought she had a pretty good grasp on things. As soon as we got home and I pulled into the garage, she hopped out of the car, fishing something out of her school bag. "I drew a picture," she said. "Do you want to see?" I wasn't sure I did. but I looked at it anyway. I had to sit down. There, all puffed up, so to speak, looking mighty attractive for the ladies, was a crayon drawing of a great big tom turkey. His snood, the thing that hangs down over his beak. The thing that female turkeys find so irresistible, was magnificent. His tail feathers were standing tall and proud. She was a little offended that I laughed so hard at her drawing, and I laughed until I cried. But when I told her I loved it, and I did, she got over her pique. That was the end of that for her anyway. But I'm not so lucky. Every year I remember that conversation. And to be honest, I haven't looked at a turkey or a man the same way since. Joke number 16. A husband was addicted to smoking and drinking. One day, his wife got so angry that she told him, "If you keep on smoking, all of your intestines will fall out." Her husband didn't believe her, so he kept on smoking and drinking, just like he always did. His wife was determined to prove herself right, so one day she went out early in the morning and bought some big intestines. She stuffed them in her husband's underwear as he slept. A short while later, he woke up, let out a huge scream, and then fell silent for the next 30 minutes. After another 30 minutes of silence, he comes downstairs, sweating profusely. "What happened?" asked the wife. "You were right, my intestines did come out, but don't worry, honey. After a lot of work, I finally managed to push them back in." Joke number 17. Little Johnny wanted to go to the zoo and pestered his parents for days. Finally, his mother talked his reluctant father into taking him. After several hours, the two men of the family come back smiling and tired. "So, how was it?" his mother asked when they returned home. "Great," little Johnny replied. "Did you and your father have a good time?" asked his mother. "Yeah, Daddy especially liked it," exclaimed little Johnny excitedly. "Especially when one of the animals came home at 30-1. Joke number 18. A 5-year-old girl went to visit her grandmother one day. She played with her dolls as Grandma dusted the furniture. At one point, she looked up and asked, "Grandma, how come you don't have a boyfriend?" Grandma replied, "Honey, my TV is my boyfriend. I can sit in my bedroom and watch it all day long. The TV evangelists keep me company and make me feel so good. The comedies make me laugh. I'm so happy with my TV as my boyfriend." Grandma turned on the TV, and the picture was horrible. She started adjusting the knobs, trying to get the picture in focus. Frustrated, she started hitting the back of the TV, hoping to fix the problem. The little girl heard the doorbell ring, so she hurried to open the front door. When she opened the door, there stood Grandma's minister. The minister said, "Hello, young lady. Is your grandma home?" The little girl replied, "Yeah, she's in the bedroom banging her boyfriend." Joke number 19. Many years ago, a smart old sculptor was finally allowed to leave the Soviet Union and emigrate to the United States where his son lived. When he was searched at the Moscow airport, the customs official found a bust of Lenin. Customs. "What is that, old man? What is that? What is that?" Do not say, "What is that?" Say, "Who is that?" That is Lenin, the genius who thought up this workers' paradise. The official smiled and let the old man through. The old man arrived at JFK Airport, where an American customs official found the bust of Lenin. Customs. "What is that?" Old man. "What is that? What is that?" Do not say, "What is that?" Say, "Who is that?" That is Lenin, the bastard. I'll put him on display in my toilet for all the years he prevented an old man from having a good life. The official smiled and let him through. When he arrived at his family's house in Brooklyn, his grandson saw him unpack the bust. Grandson. "Who is that, Grandpa?" Old man. "Who is that? Who is that?" Don't say, "Who is that?" Say, "What is that?" That, my child, is 8 pounds of gold. Joke number 20. A woman overhears her 7-year-old son playing with his toy train set. As he's moving his train around, he stops the train and says, "This stop is Los Angeles. If this is your stop, get the bloody hell off. If this is not your stop, stay the bloody hell on." The boy moves the train around for a minute and stops the train once again. "This stop is Seattle. If this is your stop, get the bloody hell off. If this is not your stop, stay the bloody hell on." Angry that her son used such foul language, she bursts into the room and sends him to his room for an hour of time out. After an hour passes, the woman allows her son to play with his train set on the condition he does not repeat what he said. He agrees. Shortly after, the woman overhears her son playing with his train set once again. After moving his train around the track for a minute, he stops the train and says, "This is New York City. If this is your stop, get off. If this is not your stop, stay on. And if you're wondering why the train's an hour late, just ask the cow in the kitchen." Joke number 21. A 65-year-old lady suddenly started learning to swim instead of her usual routine of going to bingo. Everyone was curious and asked her, "Why the change in your interest?" The lady, with a look of helplessness, replied, "Whenever my son and daughter-in-law quarrel with each other, my daughter-in-law always asks my son, 'If your mom and I fall into water, which one would you save first?' So, because I do not want to put my son in a difficult position, I am learning to swim." A few days later, her son and his wife were quarreling again, and the daughter-in-law unreasonably asked, "Now tell me, if your mom and I fall into the water, whom will you save first?" The husband replied, "I don't have to get into the water. My mom knows how to swim. She will save you." The wife refused to relent. "No, you have to jump into the water and have to save one of us. Which one will it be?" Her husband replied, "Then I'm sorry to say you'll die anyway because I don't know to swim, and my mom will definitely save me first." Joke number 22. Mandy asks her mother for a few minutes to have a serious conversation. Concerned for her college-age daughter, Nina stops what she's doing and makes them coffee. They sit for a few minutes, with Mandy looking nervous. "What is it, sweetie?" her mother asks. "You know you can tell me anything." Mandy manages a sickly smile. "Well, you may judge me for this, and please don't tell Dad." "What is it?" her mother demands. "Do you know the neighbor, Jeremy, who I study with?" "Yes," says her mother cautiously. "And you know his dad, Ronald?" "Ah. Her mother looks more concerned every second. "I think I'm in love with him," Mandy blurts it out. Her mother is shocked. "I won't allow it." "Mom, you can't tell me who to love." "He could be your father," shouts Nina. "I don't care about the age difference," the daughter shoots back. Her mother sighs. "I think you misunderstood me." Joke number 23. A small-town man decides to go to the city. He's a self-sufficient guy, so this is a rare occurrence. However, finding himself low on essentials, he decides there's nothing for it and heads in. Being something of a special occasion, he takes his youngest child with him, thinking it was the perfect chance to show off his knowledge of the world outside to an eager audience. On the trip in, they chatter away until they arrive at their first stop, the bakery. Pulling up, the little one excitedly asks where they are. "Why, this is John the baker, youngest. You see, when Dad doesn't make any bread, John makes it for him." The little one stares at him wide-eyed and asks, "Is it as good as yours?" With a small grin, he replies, "No, mine is better." And off he went to get the bread. Arriving at their next stop, the little one again queries where they are. "Why, this is Ted's liquor store, youngest. You see, when Dad doesn't make any beer, Ted makes it for him." The little one stares at him, thinking hard, and asks, "Is it as good as yours?" With a bigger grin, he replies, "No, mine is better." And off he went to get some beer. At their final stop, the butcher's shop, the little one thinks the world makes a lot more sense now. "So then, Dad," his smallest child begins, and looks at him expectantly. "Yes, that's right, little one. This is Tom the Butcher, and when Dad hasn't made any sausages," he trails off. "Tom makes them for you?" she asks hesitantly. "Yes, that's right. You are a smart one," he exclaimed. "And yours are better," she shouts. Beaming with pride, he says, "Exactly." And away he goes to collect some sausages from Tom. On the road home, they pass the postal truck coming the other way. "Hey, Dad!" exclaimed the little one. "It's Pete, the postman." "Yes, that's right," said the farmer, but sensing what comes next, he quickly continued. "But we need Pete. Your dad is a farmer and can do a lot of things, but I can't do what Pete does." "Oh, yes," she replied. "Mom says so, too." Joke number 24. One day, a woman walks into a dentist's office and asks how much it will cost to extract wisdom teeth. $80, the dentist says. "That's a ridiculous amount," the woman says. "Isn't there a cheaper way?" "Well," the dentist says, "if you don't use an anesthetic, I can knock the price down to $60. "That's still too expensive," replies the woman. "Okay," says the dentist. "If I save on anesthesia and simply rip the teeth out with a pair of pliers, I can knock the price down to $20. "Nope," moans the woman. "It's still too much." "Well," says the dentist, scratching his head, "if I let one of my students do it, I suppose I can knock the price down to $10. "Marvelous," says the woman. "May I book my mother-in-law for next Tuesday, please?" Joke number 25. Mrs. Rosie Jones was going to the market in New York, where she happened to meet Father Patrick. Father: "Hey, you are Rosie, right? I got you married in New Jersey when I was posted there?" "Yes, Father," says Rosie. "How is your husband and the little ones?" "Husband is fine, but so far no children." Father Patrick: "Don't worry, child. I'm going to Rome next week. I will light a candle for you there." "Thank you, Father Patrick." After some years, Father Patrick happens to meet Rosie again. "Hello, Rosie. How's everything? Did you have any kids?" "Yes, Father. I have 3 sets of twins and 2 singles. Total 8 kids." "Wow! Where is your husband?" "Oh, he's gone to Rome all of a sudden. Said something about blowing off some candle." Joke number 26. The year is 2032, and the United States has elected the first woman as well as the first Jewish president, Sarah Goldstein. She calls up her mother a few weeks after Election Day and says, "So, Mom, I assume you'll be coming to my inauguration?" "I don't think so. It's a 10-hour drive, your father isn't as young as he used to be, and my arthritis is acting up again." "Don't worry about it, Mom. I'll send Air Force One to pick you up and take you home, and a limousine will pick you up at your door." "I don't know. Everybody will be so fancy schmaltzy. What on earth would I wear?" Sarah replies, "I'll make sure you have a wonderful gown custom made by the best designer in New York." "Honey," Mom complains, "you know I can't eat those rich foods you and your friends like to eat." The president-to-be responds, "Don't worry, Mom. The entire affair is going to be handled by the best caterer in New York. Kosher. All the way, Mom. I really want you to come." So Mom reluctantly agrees, and on January 20th, Sarah Goldstein is being sworn in as President of the United States. In the front row sits the new president's mother, who leans over to a senator sitting next to her and says, "You see that woman over there with her hand on the Torah becoming President of the United States?" The senator whispers back, "Yes, I do." Her mom flushes with pride and says, "Her brother is a doctor." Joke number 27. A man went to the hospital to visit his mother-in-law, who was in serious condition. On the way back, the wife, very worried, asks, "So, honey, how's my mom doing?" He replies, "She looks great. She is in good health. She will still live for many years. Next week she will be released from the hospital and will come and live with us forever." "Wow, that's amazing," says the surprised wife. "But this is very strange, dear. Yesterday she seemed to be on her deathbed. The doctor said she should have a few days to live." "Well, I don't know how she was yesterday," he replied. "But today when I arrived at the hospital, the doctor told me that we should prepare for the worst." Joke number 28. George came home from university in tears. "Mom, am I adopted?" "No, of course not," replied his mother. "Why would you think such a thing?" George showed her his genealogy DNA test results. No match for any of his relatives, and strong matches for a family who lived the other side of the city. Perturbed, his mother called her husband. "Honey, George has done a DNA test and I don't know how to say this. He may not be our son." "Well, obviously," he replied. "What do you mean?" she asked. "It was your idea in the first place," her husband said. "You remember that first night in hospital when the baby did nothing but scream and cry and scream and cry, on, and you asked me to change him. I picked a good one, I reckon. Ever so proud of George." Joke number 29. Did you know the painter Vincent van Gogh had a very large family? There's his dizzy aunt, Verdi Gogh, the brother who ate prunes, Gotta Go, the brother who worked at a convenience store, Stop and Go, the grandfather from Yugoslavia, Hugo, his magician uncle, Where Did He Go, his Mexican cousin, Amigo, the Mexican cousin's American half-brother, Gringo, the nephew who drove a stagecoach, Wells Fargo, the constipated uncle, Can't Go, the ballroom dancing aunt, Ungo, the bird lover uncle, Flamingo, the fruit-loving cousin, Mango, an aunt who taught positive thinking, Way to Go, the little bouncy nephew, Po, Go, a sister who loved disco, Go Go, and his niece who travels the country in an RV, Winnie Bay. Go, I saw you smiling. There you go. Joke number 30. A woman takes her little boy to visit their dead relatives' gravestones at a cemetery. The little boy has never been to a cemetery before. The woman first takes her son, her grandmother, Annie's gravestone. The initials under Annie's name say R.I.P. The little boy asks, "Mommy, what does R.I.P. stand for?" His mother replies, "It stands for rest in peace. That means we wish for Grandma Annie's spirit to find peace in the afterlife." Then, they come across the gravestone of the woman's Uncle Joe. The little boy asks, "Mommy, what does R.I.H. stand for?" pointing to the initials printed under Uncle Joe's name. "We really didn't like Uncle Joe," said his mother. Thanks for watching our jokes. If you enjoyed this video and want more laughs, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell icon to stay updated with our latest jokes. Join our community of joke lovers and never miss a punchline. See you in the next video.